Hello everyone, and today we're going to be covering off Swordsoul. Now, Swordsoul is a deck that quite a few people have been asking me recently to cover, and it is one that I have done several times on the channel already. So what we're doing today is something a little bit different. We're not doing replays, we're just going to take the deck live in the Diamond 1. We get the games we get. If we brick 3 times in a row, we brick 3 times in a row. If we completely decimate our opponents 3 times in a row, that's what happens. We're just going to dive in, 3 random games and just play it live. We will be doing a deck profile at the end for anybody who doesn't know how Swordsouls work, but the deck is pretty straightforward, so I can't imagine it being too much of an issue. And yeah, with that, if you are new to the channel, if you haven't seen us around before and you're not subscribed, I would consider doing so if you do like the video after watching it, and do stick around for the deck profile if you're in any way unfamiliar with how Swordsoul Tenyi works. This is pretty much the deck list that we covered in our last video. I didn't change it very much. I've only done one warm-up game. I think what we did is take out one Imperm to put in an extra Ghost Bell. I think Ghost Bell is going to be amazing right now with Mathmech running around. Mathmech being as strong as it is, Ghost Bell and Cult by the Grave are 2 very good counters to Mathmech, as well as of course Maxi. So yeah, we're going to be taking the deck in like this in the Diamond 1, seeing what happens. If you like content like this and you want to see more like it, feel free to subscribe. You can go back, watch our previous videos as well. We have quite a few videos on Swordsoul. In fact, our first video ever was Swordsoul. I wouldn't recommend going back that far, but again, it's one that we've been covering quite a bit. So there's plenty up there. Today is going to be another example of that. Let's get into game number 1. Alrighty, getting into our first game here. Our opponent has the maximum of C in his hand, which is not good, of course. That of course is not great, right? I think then, considering our opponent has max C, we're gonna go strategist first. Ditch 1. Oh, maybe it's not max. He had something he could use. What could he have used? What did he, Thunder Dragon? Thunder Dragon Dark, maybe? If you have an abundance of monsters in hand, it's usually good to go for Baron first anyway, because you protect yourself from Nibiru, right? So going Baron first is a good way to protect yourself from Nibiru, so it is. So we bring out Baron, we inflict 1200 points of damage. That's good. I like the burn effect off the strategist. It gives you like an extra sort of win condition against Dinomorphia, because they normally don't have like loads of traps in Grave all the time. We can keep Ecclesia for follow-up, right? We're gonna keep Ecclesia just because we can, really. We have Earth, Fire. We will have Water in Grave. So what we will then do is Moyi, of course, summon a token. Now we can use our Moyi and our token to synchro summon. I almost said exceed summon, to synchro summon into our Grand Master. Grand Master then searches the deck for any Swordsoul card, really, and Moyi lets us draw one, which is basically just like a chain block for this. Means he can't really Ash our Grandmaster. He seems to have an Ash. There's the Ash. Awesome. That is the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Do not do that against Swordsouls. Do not Ash the draw one. That is silly. What you want to do is you want to save it for what I'm about to search for. The Swordsoul Emergence. You want to save it for the Emergence, because now that has happened, we're going to be able to use our Emergence. We're going to be able to search our deck for any worm monster. Any worm monster at all. Like Arch Nemesis Protoss, and add it to our hand. Then with Protoss, we simply banish Water, Fire, Earth from our graveyard. Uno, Dos, and Trace. We have Emergence in Grave for our Grandmaster's effect on their turn. Summon out Protoss. Protoss activate Declare Dark. Now our opponent can't special summon dark monsters. So if they're playing a deck that relies upon dark monsters, like Branded, I don't know what attribute the Mathmech Exceed monsters are. I know like Nabla is dark, but I think that, yeah, there you go. Instant game. Arch Nemesis Protoss, busted. Plus the Omni Negate and the Monster Negate off our other Synchro monsters, plus the follow-up off of Ecclesia. Pretty good. Honestly, really solid. And that's your basic turn 1, right? That's what you're going to be aiming to do every single game. You're going to have a board that strong every game. Wow, that's very briefly, before we cut the game to, I very briefly want to check this guy's deck. Oh, it was Mathmech. What in Mathmech gets stopped? Lingeribo gets stopped. Access code gets stopped. Oh my god, stopping the access code? That's kinda nutty. That's pretty much it though. So the Protoss isn't really all that detrimental against these guys. It does stop some of the Code Talker plays, of course. But, you know, they can still play the game. I maybe wouldn't have scooped that quickly as my opponent, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's jump into game number 2. Alrighty, we're going first again, right? But the difference is, this time our opponent won the coin toss and made us go first. So, I'm afraid. Let's see what they've got. Ultimately, it can't be that bad, surely. Why do I say things? That's always like the worst thing to say. Surely it's not that bad. Don't say that. We've got the Emergence in hand, which is a good start. That means we don't need the Search of a Grandmaster so much, so that's fine. It is, of course, still going to help. If we resolve it, means we can still grab our Strategist. So we're going to Synchro Summon here. Our opponent, he had something lit up at the start of his turn. What is it that... I'm assuming this guy's also playing Mathmech. What are Mathmech playing that lights up at the start of your opponent's turn? What is that about? Unless this is just like their bad internet. Maybe it's just bad internet. This isn't the same guy, is it? I don't think so. Right, okay, so we will Grandmaster, Mo Yi draw 1 as Chain Link 2, then Grandmaster searches our deck for the Strategist. Awesome. And it's just as simple as this. You literally, we're just going through the motions. We're going to ditch Taya to Grave, just gives us an extra attribute in Grave. There we go, our Strategist, which is now our fire monster. So now we have fire, wind, and water, which is good. You want to be mindful of that. If your plan is to go into Protoss, you need to be mindful of your attributes in Grave, and you need to try filling it up as much as you can with different attributes. So we go Baron de Fleur, and then we inflict 1200 points of damage to our opponent there off of Long Wan. That's fine. Crossout is handy to stop our opponent from hitting us with things like Ash or Imperm, things like that. And another scoop. They just can't cope with the Swordsoul. The Swordsoul, it's just too much. Tier 1 for a reason. I'm going to check his deck list, because what are these people lighting up at the start of my turn for? Why are you lighting up at the start of my turn? Not save replay. I don't want to save the replay. I want to check the deck list. Dangers. What lit up at the start of my turn? Maybe it's just their bad internet. Maybe it's just bugging out. Oh, I really want to build Luna Lights. Really want to... Someone in the comments convince me to build Luna Lights. Someone convince me to build it. Yeah. Anyway, another insta scoop. I suppose their entire deck is dark. I just realized their entire deck is dark. They couldn't play the game. Protoss, bring Protoss out, declare dark. Instant L. You can't play the game. Oh no, that's tragic. I love it. Anyway, into game number 3. Alrighty, we are going second against a 60 card pay. Let's see. Instant end phase. Excuse you? Did I miss something? Instant end phase. This isn't, like, these aren't paid actors, right? That's not what's happening. I know it looks like it. It's not. Trust me. I'm a doctor. Well, we don't have a great hand either, right? We don't have a very good hand, so this is fine. He's gonna see, yeah, he's gonna max C us. That's fine. Maybe his plan was to just survive off the max C. I don't know if that's a very good plan considering how common Ash is. But, I mean, you know, whatever floats your boat. Dog's trying to come in. So Max C gets negated. Ashuna comes out to the field. I guess we fire... we can go into Cheng Ying here. Or, I guess we could technically also do Baron de Fleur. Is Baron de Fleur better? It is, isn't it? Instead of, so what we could do is we could link off in the Monk, banish Ashuna from Grave to grab Vishuda, summon Ghost Spell, Vishuda plus Ghost Spell into Cheng Ying, and then Protoss Cheng Ying would not be game 41, 61, 60, yeah, it wouldn't be game, and I don't think it's worth it. I think instead we're just going to go Ghost Spell, and we're going to go Baron de Fleur. Oh, we could go the Sinister... Oh, we could have done the Sinister Sovereign. That would have given us game if he plays, like, any cards. If we go into Sinister Sovereign, we do 28, 25. Then 24 during their turn. That's still not game. It sure isn't. It's just off. If I summon the monk for... Wait, I can still do it, right? I can still do it. Yeah, okay, right. We're going to do this instead. We're going to do this instead. We sort of want to win the game as quickly as we possibly can, right? Do we banish the one in hand to keep this one engraved for Protos? Does it matter? Doesn't really matter, because we're going to have the remnants engraved instead then, so it's not even a thing. Doesn't even matter. So we're going to go Vishuddha. Another play you can do here is, I think you can go into like Yazi, but I don't think that's worth it. I think instead we go Sinister Sovereign, Synchro in for level 10. We go into the Sinister Sovereign. We have Dark, Earth, Fire engrave. So now we banish Fire, Earth, and Dark. 29, 25, 1000. So this is a lot of damage, and the reason we did this is so that we could get Nibiru. All part of the plan. Do we nib? We don't, right? No, we don't maxi. We don't maxi. Okay, fair enough. GG's. Our opponent got us. We were going for a lethal play there with Sinister Sovereign, so we would have done 29. 25, 1,000, so that would be, oh god, I'm terrible at math, 5,000, 5,400, 6,400, and then the Sinister Sovereign's effect can banish a spell or trap card your opponent uses or a monster they special summon during their turn, one of each, so that, and inflicts 1,200 points of damage each time, so that would have been an additional 24, which would have brought us up to like 8,800 damage, which would have been game. But we get stopped. Again, that would have been too easy, so you know what, it is what it is, I don't even mind. We wanted a game, we went for a game. Sometimes you gotta risk it, and sometimes it doesn't work out. It's as simple as that. Our opponent's gonna top deck in the grass with screener here. No, they're not. They're going... That's not even a good max C. But I need something. I can't be sitting around here. I need something. I would have been way better using this last turn, but I didn't think he was just gonna top deck Fusion Destiny. What a guy. A 60 card deck, you just top deck Fusion Destiny? What do you mean? I suppose it stops him from doing like the extender plays out of his graveyard. That's something, at least. He's going to pop himself, pop the token, that's fine. He's going to come back here during our following turn, unless we top deck Call by the Grave. If we top deck Call by the Grave, we're the best in the game. If we top deck Call by, we're the best. It was actually simply meant to be if we top deck Call by the Grave. Give it to me. Oh, that's not Call by the Grave at all. Banish card from hand to graveyard. Okay. We don't have a Vishuddha engrave, but we're going to put one there. So we have a pretty good hand for beating DP here. We have a pretty solid hand for beating DP. We're going to go Vishuddha. Vishuddha, as some people call it. He's going right away. Right away. He is wasting no time in popping our card here. That's a-okay with me. We're just going to go Ashuna instead. Shifana was our backup plan. For if he waited, Shifana was the backup plan. We're going to link off our monk into... Sorry, link off our Ashuna into the monk. Then I can special summon Shifana now. What do we do here? We still have to inflict lethal damage, right? So it's going to be a very hard push to do... Do we have anything... Oh, wait, hang on. Can't we Shaman? Oh, we don't have a discard. Wait, if we do this, we will, though. If we do this, we have a discard. Right, so Ashuna... Yeah, if we Ashuna first, we have a discard. We Ashuna, summon out Adara. Then we link Adara. Oh, no, we don't have any more monks. That's still fine, though. We can link off Adara. I think we bounce the Nibiru. No, we bounce the back row. Bounce the back row. On the off chance it's something usable. If it's not, it's not. Don't worry about it. Then we're going to link 2 off into Shaman. Then we're going to activate Shaman. We have the ability, I think, to resurrect. We have to get back our... we can do Protos. Yeah, we're gonna get back Protoss. Absolutely. Sign me up. Ooh, that hurts. That hurts. That's not great. That's not great. Suddenly Vishuda bouncing Nibiru doesn't seem like such a bad play. Okay. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. Set 1, pop with DP, and that's game, as far as I can see. I think this is just easy cleanup from our opponent here. Yep, they just summon the Destiny Heroes from the grave here. He just needs the DP, pop Malicious, and Shaman. He's just going. He's gonna go all the way, though. Of course he is. Of course he is. Why wouldn't you? Bounce the Malicious back. He should just pop us and swing. Why are you being extra, my guy? Don't be doing this. Get it? Extra. See? I can make jokes. They're not funny, but I can make them. He's going to bring back Fusion Destiny here, which is a little bit usable now because he has got his cards back. So he's going to go Fusion Destiny. Does he have more Destiny Heroes in deck? Or wait. Wait, hang on. Destiny Hero. This guy looks like a freaking Dark Souls boss. What is that? Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and your opponent's deck and place them back in any order, right? So we're guaranteed to top deck a bad card even if we survive this turn. That was all very extra. Dreadmaster, Draw Hand, and Disc Commander. He's ending his turn. Why? He's BMing me. He's BMing me. There's no way. Holy crap. We're getting BM by actual... rapid trigger? Oh, no, he messed that up. He could have destroyed his Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and triggered its effect to resummon itself as fusion material for Dustopia. That would have been way better. Once per turn, target a monster in the field, make it unable to be destroyed. If you do, your player takes damage until the end of the turn, whatever. And the first effect allows him to fusion summon again. So he's going to fusion summon using monsters hand or field. Right? Hand or field. What have you got in your hand? What are you summoning? Dustopia. This guy's playing raw Destiny Heroes. What the hell? This is fire. 60 card Destiny Heroes. He's going to go into Sunrise. On my turn. It's my standby phase. This guy's crazy. God damn, man. Oh, his dominance would have been destroyed. I mean, he still could have. Dominance plus Destiny Hero. The DPE? Surely. And that's game. That's whatever. Alright. We got BMs. That was awful. That was awful. Fair play to him. Our opponent playing a fantastic deck, so he is. I mean, you know, we take 1 L out of 4 games. That's not terrible. We're just going to get in. We're going to talk about the deck next. Already getting into the deck profile now. Gameplay that you were seeing, not exactly like, you know, top tier play Swordsoul every day kind of gameplay. I haven't played Swordsoul in what must be weeks or even months, to be honest. But it's like riding a bike. It just comes back to you, you know what you're doing. Plus, I mean, you face it commonly enough on a ladder, you sort of know how to play around it. Knowing how it functions is going to help you learn to play against it. But if you want to pick it up as well, by all means, it is a relatively cheap deck. The extra deck is a little bit pricey, but a lot of these cards are like extra. You know what I mean? Like, Xiaofeng is really good, but it's extra. Dragite is extra. Draco is extra. This card is garbage. He's not even meant to be here. This is a placeholder for the Psychic End Punisher for when it comes out. But you don't play that. You'll probably just play like a monk. Maybe a second Boxia instead of one of those. You can cut the Sigma if you want to play something different. My point is the extra deck, a lot of it is just extra. And in terms of the main deck, you've only got one main deck UR, which is your Mo Yi. Right? So we're going to go through card for card. First of all, remove all of the fluff. We got the double Veiler, double Maxi, triple Ash, triple Ghost Bell. We've got the double Cult by the Grave, the Crossout Designator, double Cosmic Cyclone, the double infinite impermanence. That gives you 17 slots with which to do as you please, which is really good. Having 17 spare slots for just hand traps, interruptions, tech cards, go nuts. It is fantastic. That is a sign that your deck is really good. So how does the actual deck work? So you've got Swordsoul cards and you've got Tenyi cards. Swordsoul Tenyi, that's the name of the deck. Let me get this up. Swordsoul cards and Tenyi cards. They both sort of work hand in hand because they both support generic worms, but I'll separate the two of them out for ease of learning. First of all is the Swordsoul cards, which are definitely more powerful. First of all, they all have a similar effect in that they summon themselves and they also summon a token, a Swordsoul token, which is a Worm Tuner level 4 monster. So they all generate their own tuner alongside summoning themselves. That's how they synchro summon. Mo Yi on summon will reveal a Worm or Swordsoul card in your hand to your opponent, and then you summon your token. Taya will banish a Worm or Swordsoul card from your graveyard to summon your token, and the Strategist, you will discard a card to special summon this card from your hand as well as summoning your token. So that's how the three of them summon their tokens. They all have an effect that activates when you use the Synchro material. Mo Yi will draw you a card. Taya will send a card from deck to graveyard, one of your Worms or Swordsoul cards, and the Strategist will inflict 1200 points of damage. So that's how they basically break down. So on summon, reveal in hand, summon token, draw one when used the Synchro material. Taya, banish one from grave to summon token when used the Synchro material, Foolish Burial. And Strategist, special summon itself and token from hand and inflict 1200 points of damage when used the Synchro material. Very straightforward. Ecclesia is a very powerful card. Basically, you can quick play Tribute itself in order to summon any of your Swordsoul cards directly from your deck. So this is an amazing extender, especially considering if your opponent controls more monsters than you, you can special summon it straight from your hand, meaning you can summon out the likes of Mo Yi without even using your normal summon, which is very, very important for this deck, especially going second. It's not too great in your hand going first, which is why we're playing only 2 copies of it. But if you're going second, you really want to see Ecclesia. She helps you play through additional interruptions that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So absolutely, Ecclesia is fantastic, but you just think of her as an extra Swordsoul card. She just summons a Swordsoul from deck. Next we've got our 4 Tenyis. All of the Tenyis have a common effect where if you don't control any effect monsters, you can special summon them from your hand to your field. So they're all free special summons, but only if you control no effect monsters. And they all have an effect that activates when a normal monster is on your field, or a non-effect monster I should say. Adara will banish itself from the graveyard to add a banished worm monster from your back to your hand. So Adara will banish itself to add a worm back to your hand from your banish pile. Vishura will banish itself to target a card your opponent controls to bounce it back to hand. Ashuna will banish itself from grave to special summon a worm from your deck, or another Tenyi monster from your deck, sorry, which is amazing for your extender plays and synchro plays, but bear in mind it does lock you into worms for the rest of the turn. Shifan is a little bit different. Instead of banishing itself to proactively do something, what it does is if a non-effect monster on your field is destroyed, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard to re-summon the destroyed card and then destroy a card your opponent controls as well. So this is really good for recycling your Monk of the Tenyi as well as giving you a little interaction whenever they destroy your Monk, which is always very good. So Shifana is a little bit different. This combos really well with a card, Heavenly Dragon Circle. Unfortunately at the minute we're not playing this card, but we initially were, which is why Shifana's here. You don't need to play this, but if you want to play something like Heavenly Dragon Circle, I would definitely recommend putting it in. Lastly, to round out our monster lineup, we have Arch Nemesis Protos, which is basically like one of the boss monsters of the deck. This card is insane. It's like Diet VFD, right? It's like Diet VFD. You can essentially, while it's face up, you declare an attribute. Everything on the field of that attribute gets destroyed, and until the end of your opponent's turn, monsters of that attribute cannot be special summoned. Now, the attribute has to be one matching a face-up monster at a time. Normally, what you're going to do is declare Dark, because this card itself cannot be destroyed by card effects, meaning it will be destroyed. But if the attribute you declare has to be that of a face-up monster, all face-up monsters of that attribute get destroyed, and cannot be special summoned until the end of the next turn. You summon this guy from your hand by banishing 3 different attributes from your grave, so very easy to summon as long as you're managing your resources. You saw it in the gameplay. All 4 games, we either summoned Protoss or were in a position to summon Protoss. So ridiculously easy to summon and very easy to search for off the next card on our list, Swordsoul Emergence. You activate it to add a Swordsoul monster from your deck to your hand, or if you already control a Synchro monster, you can search for any worm monster instead, which is almost always going to be your Protoss. This card is searchable off of your Grandmaster, generic level 8 Synchro that you'll be summoning off of either Moyi or Taya virtually every single game. So you're almost always going to have access to Emergence unless you open a bit of a bricky hand. But yeah, very, very easy access to Protoss in virtually every game. And Emergence has a secondary effect that doesn't come up all the time, but basically if it ends up getting banished, you can target a Swordsoul, a worm monster in general, on your field. You can either increase or decrease its level by 1, which sounds small, but you can actually decrease the level of one of your monsters down to 3, right? And then you can Synchro Summon into the likes of Yazi, which is an amazing card, especially going second, because it will pop itself as well as a card your opponent controls to summon another worm then from your deck. So you basically pop one to special summon a worm from deck, and then you just continue to combo off. So yeah, definitely very, very good. The Emergence is very solid. A lot of purposes, a lot of uses. Love to see it. Then lastly, we've got Blackout, which is pretty good. It's just a generic trap card. It has 2 main uses. Number 1, its actual set effect. Destroy a worm on your field and 2 cards your opponent controls. That is handy, especially when you consider the likes of Protoss, which cannot be destroyed by card effects. So it basically means Blackout is suddenly just destroy 2 cards your opponent controls, which is really good. Because it's a trap card, it gets around things, very common things that would stop back row. So yeah, Blackout is an excellent way of getting rid of Floodgates in particular. Floodgates are the main reason this is here, but in general, just being able to snipe 2 cards is always great. Its second effect is its more sort of combo heavy effect. If it gets banished, you will summon a Swordsoul token out to your field. Now, you need to remember that Grandmaster's effect, which we're going to get to in a minute, can either search for a Swordsoul card or banish a Swordsoul card. So if need be, you can banish the Swordsoul Blackout from deck to nab yourself an extra token, which can be useful for recovery plays. Again, it won't come up all the time, but it is something to remember. But that's the main deck. Again, it is relatively straightforward. Tenyis swarm the field and use their graveyard effects whenever you control a monk. Your Swordsouls are the ones who are going to be bringing out your big synchro monsters. Pretty much, it's that straightforward. Getting into the extra deck then, of course we have Yazi first up on our list as our level 7. It can pop itself as well as a card on your opponent's field and sort of destroy both, and then special summon any worm monster from your deck in defense position. So you can extend into the likes of Taya, into your Tenyis, and Moyi if you open up a bad hand. But yeah, Yazi, pop a card and extend, really good, especially going second. You have Boxia. Boxia is one of those cards that a lot of people play at 2. You probably should play it at 2. The Star Reader was purely there as a spot saver, if you will, for the Psychic End Punisher, which is a card we'll be getting in the future. But yeah, you probably want to play 2 Boxia for now. Basically, whenever it's summoned, you will bounce cards your opponent controls up to the number of different attributes that were used for its summon, and they go back into the deck, which is amazing. Normally you want to summon this card off of your Taya. Taya's wind. Your Swordsoul tokens are all water, so that means wind and water, spin 2 cards back into the deck, which is great. It has a secondary effect as well that lets you destroy a card you control to resurrect a level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard. Any level 4 or lower monster. Boxia is nuts. Really good card. Draco Berserker, one of your generic level 8s. Whenever your opponent activates a monster effect, banish that monster. Now, of course, the monster needs to be in the original zone where it activated the effect and where resolution was going to take place. So if the monster discards itself or tributes itself or anything like that as cost, then Draco Berserker won't be activating because the card isn't in the location in which the effect is resolving. A little bit of there are some weird rulings around this card that pop up here and there, but if you know your cards, if you know your rulings, you will be able to sort of spot where and when this is going to be effective. I can't go through every situation here, But yeah, you just sort of need to use your brain a wee bit when it comes to that effect. But its main effect you're using it for is quite simply, if it destroys an effect monster by battle, you gain its attack points permanently once per turn, and it can make a second attack on another monster, which is busted, makes it really good for clearing out big boards, because it keeps the attack boost it gets permanently, which is insane. Gets real big real fast. Then you've got Dragite. Dragite isn't a card you're going to bring out every game, but it is a really, really good option to have. Basically, so long as you have a water monster in your graveyard, it is a spell or trap card negate. The first effect you can't really use in this deck because we're not playing any rocks, but it's basically just a spell or trap so long as Moyi is in your graveyard, or Shifana. We've got the Grandmaster, which is the main sort of synchro search engine of the deck. On summon, you can search your deck for any Swordsoul card and add it to your hand. Normally you're going to be either grabbing your Strategist or your Emergence. It has another effect that allows you to banish a card from your graveyard, specifically a Worm or Swordsoul card from your graveyard, to target a face-up monster in the field and negate its effects. You can only use one of those effects per turn. That does come up if you're on like turn 3, you've got a Grandmaster. If you summon a second Grandmaster and activate its search, you can't activate the banish to negate effect then. So do remember that, because some people get that wrong. But yeah, I can only use one of its effects per turn, and it is a hard restriction. But yeah, this guy is your main sort of... He'll be the first synchro monster you bring out in virtually every game. In basically every game, he'll be the first one. Then Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng is interesting. Basically, it becomes a pseudo floodgate where the attributes of the Yangzing monsters used for its summon, your opponent can't activate monster effects of monsters of those attributes. Now it's a level 9, and how are you actually going to utilize that effect? You're going to be utilizing it alongside Boxia, right? So Boxia, like we discussed earlier, has the ability to resurrect a level 4 or lower monster. What you're going to do is resurrect your level 1 tuner, Adara. Adara plus your Boxia gives you your level 9 Xiao Feng, and because Boxia is a Yangzing monster, and it's a light attribute, so long as Xiao Feng is face up, your opponent cannot activate the effects of light monsters. You can also sort of do the combo with Yazi. It just gets a little bit more difficult because you need to summon Yazi without using the effect of Emergence. It just gets a wee bit messy. But yeah, primarily it'll be Boxia bringing this card out, locking your opponent out of light, which is great in the Math Mech matchup, for example. No circular, no diameter. So it's great in that particular matchup, as well as a few other ones. So Xiao Feng, definitely a really cool card. Definitely not mandatory. You're not going to bring it out every single game, but it's a cool card to bring out when you can. Baron de Fleur, of course, one of the most powerful generic level 10 synchros in the game, and considering your strategist will basically always summon out a level 10 synchro for free, this card becomes mandatory, absolutely. Xiao Feng, your Supreme Sovereign and your Sinister Sovereign are your other two level 10s. The Supreme Sovereign, everyone knows this card, he's very popular. He gains 100 attack and defense for every banished card and reduces your opponent's attack and defense by 100 for every banished card. If he would ever be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish a card from the graveyard instead, and if a card gets banished, you can banish a card on your opponent's field and one in their graveyard without targeting. So this guy is pretty nuts, honestly, really nuts, really good. The Cheng Ying, or whatever this name is, yeah, Cheng Ying is absolutely mental. This is quite often whenever we're going first and we're in a position to summon a level 10 synchro, I can never tell which of the two is better. Baron de Fleur is usually the one I go for, and it normally works out, but Cheng Ying is so strong, really, really strong. We've got the Sinister Sovereign, which is the lesser known one that maybe people outside of Swordsoul don't really know much. While he's face up, if you synchro summon another worm, you get to draw one. That doesn't come up very often. But his main effect is, he's got two, right? Number one, if your opponent special summons a monster, banish it and inflict 1200 points of damage once per turn. If your opponent activates a spell or a trap card, banish it and inflict 1200 points of damage once per turn. You do each of those things once per turn. Banish a monster, banish a spell, and remember, if your opponent's activating a field spell, continuous spell, anything like that, that needs to be face up at the point of resolution, that becomes even more valuable. But even just the 2400 damage, the 2400 burn damage is big in and of itself, but you're also banishing two of their cards. And to bring this guy out, you're going to be doing so using the Strategist, which already would have inflicted 1200 points of damage. So that's 3600 points of effect damage before anything else has even happened. That's kind of big. That's pretty big. 3600 points of damage is not small. It makes pushing for lethal, especially given the fact you can summon absolute behemoths like Tenyi, an absolute breeze. And lastly, we've got Sigma. Sigma's more of a joke option, but he comes in handy against like floodgate based strategies. So because he's completely unaffected by any cards, it does make him a very powerful and interesting way to get around floodgates, right? You're going to summon him using primarily one of your tokens as well as a level 8, usually a synchro monster. But he's just basically a way to get around oppressive cards, floodgate cards, things like that, because he's just unaffected. And lastly, we have our Tenyi Link monsters. Monk of the Tenyi, of course, is the most important. This card keeps your whole Tenyi package alive. He's a non-effect monster. So basically, you can summon out one of your Tenyis to field using their effects, then link off the Tenyi into Monk. Now you don't control any effect monsters again, which means you can summon another Tenyi from hand. That is particularly powerful if you open Ashuna and either Vishuddha and Atara. That basically means you can Ashuna, tribute Ashuna off for Monk, summon out whatever Tenyi you've got on hand. Ashuna then can banish itself to summon the other one. So if you have Adara, you summon Vishuddha off of Ashuna. If you have Ashuna, you summon Adara. And that gives you a level 8, level 1 tuner, level 7 synchro, level 7 non-tuner, then you go into a level 8 synchro. So it gives you like an additional synchro summon on top of whatever else you're doing that turn. So that's always good to have. The Monk is generally pretty good, and it also synergizes decently well with Shaman of the Tenyi, which is 1, beautiful in Royal Rare, look at that, and number 2, you can discard a card to resurrect a worm. You can discard a card to resurrect a worm in your graveyard, and basically that is, it's very powerful, and you don't target upon activation. So if you have a worm in grave, and let's say you have like a Taya in hand, you can activate Shaman, discard the Taya, and then revive the Taya that you just discarded. You just have to have had a worm in graveyard in order to make sure you can actually resolve the effect before its activation. But yeah, you can basically just resurrect a worm, which can include your synchro monsters. Like you saw in that last game, we were going to resurrect our Protoss before we got hit with Ghost Spell. But yeah, no, Shaman's pretty good. It also has another effect where if a non-effect monster would engage one of your opponent's cards in battle, you can target a card your opponent controls and simply destroy it. So it gives you an extra pop 1 if your Monk ever decides to get into a scrap, which is always an option as well. And yeah, that pretty much covers it off. The deck is super simple. You're basically just trying to summon off your Moyi or Taya, go into level 8. Level 8 is going to search your setup for your level 10, and you're usually going to end on your level 8 synchro and a level 10 synchro, as well as maybe a Protoss and maybe a Dragite, depending on what you do with your Grandmaster search. But usually it's Grandmaster plus Baron de Fleur and potentially Protoss. Most of the time you have a Protoss as well. Or if you have like Tenyi plays, you might have a Draco Berserker. But yeah, generally speaking, 8-10 plus. That's the deck. If you found that helpful, if you like seeing the combos, I know most people have seen Swordsoul, but now that you've got a detailed explanation of it, it might help you in terms of spotting where the weaknesses are, and maybe you even want to pick it up and play it yourself. Absolutely, it's a very fun deck, it's a very simple deck, not something you need to put a lot of brain power into whenever you're playing the game, which sometimes is nice. You just want to be able to sit back, chillax, play the game nice and slow. That's what Swordsoul is great at. Super versatile, super fun, and also super powerful, sitting at tier 1 at the minute. So that's everything I have to say on the deck. If you've got this far into the video and you haven't liked the video and you haven't subscribed yet, then what's going on? You might as well if you've made it this far. I would in fact appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.